resuming our study from third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on the sixth chapter, and we have discussed quite a bit of sixth chapter. We're going to discuss six and the seven today. Some very, very important discussion going to follow up. So let's begin with offering prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadi Shatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gotase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Go Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. हरे कृष्णा. सो आप सभी का ही स्वागत है आज के प्रातःकालीन श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास में. Just getting my camera in front of me. So third canto, first chapter. Just want to highlight something and then we'll go forward. So what we are seeing in this canto, if you just do a quick recap, just to give a quick connection of what's going on here, is Vidurji is asking question to Maitreya Muni. Now, what is the quality of questions of Vidurji? Third canto, first chapter, verse number 4. Parishit Mahasyesh to Sukdev Goswami. Sukdev Goswami, I'd like to hear what Vidurji asked Parishit Maitreya Muni. Why? Because Vidurji is a great personality. He will not get engaged in any frivolous conversation. Very beautiful verse. 3.1.4. Nahi alparth todayastasya vidurasya malatmanaha tasmin variyasi prashna sadhuvad upabhramnitaha. So, जो प्रश्न जो इंक्वायरी विदुर जी के द्वारा पूछी गई है, अल्प अर्थ, अल्प means meaningless or very minute. That cannot be a meaningless inquiry. Tasmin variyashi prashnaha sadhuvad upabhramitaha. The inquiries made by Vidura are such which are approved by all the great sages and personalities. Fast forward to sixth chapter, same inquiries to Maitreya Muni continues. And in the sixth chapter, largely Maitreya Muni is now answering Vidurji. Particularly the question was raised about this material creation. This is third canto, so we have had a discussion of Sarga, which we have already discussed. So here in the fifth chapter, we had that discussion about the universal form and elements. Here in the sixth chapter, just to do a quick recap here. We can have the slides, Prabhu. So slides will show that. So in the sixth chapter, what we already read in previous discussion, the description of the development of the gigantic universal form. Please go ahead. You got to be quick with the text here. So there are 40 verses here, and hanged. You have to be on the presentation to operate. Yeah, be in the presentation mode. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's taking quite a long time. Fine. So there are 40 verses in the sixth chapter. Largely, the focus of the discussion was how did the universal form was created, and we discussed about it. You know, just like the child is born in the womb, is like the material creation is manifested or created, like that. And the universal form actually is a prototype of all of us. If any designer has to design anything before he creates a prototype. So just like every living entity has eyes, has a mouth, has a nose, has ears. So why? Why it is like this? So the prototype goes back to the universal form. And we also saw how different planetary systems, everything was discussed in terms of it, how they all reside into different parts of the universal form. Now the main subject matter, which is the concluding part of this chapter, is text number 34 to 40, where Maitreya Muni now speaks further to Vidurji. After answering his inquiries, which were made in the previous chapters, Maitreya Muni speaks something very interesting about. After describing everything about the universal form, about the creation, Maitreya Muni says something. What he says, Hare Krishna. Bro, you have to go to that section of 34 verse. 34th verse, right? If you're able to pay attention, you can or somebody else can operate. Don't do multitasking, please. Because you're operating the presentation, it will take a lot of time otherwise. So text number 34. Let's begin with it. Ete varna swadharmena yajanti swagurum harim shraddhayatma vishuddhiyartam yajjataha savritibi. So all these different social divisions are born with their occupational duties and living conditions from the Supreme Personality Godhead. Thus, for unconditional life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the Spiritual Master. So we concluded last time over here where the 4 Varna and 4 Ashrams are described to be the limbs of different parts of the body. Now, 35th verse onwards, Maitreya Muni says, Hey Vidur, although I have described everything to you, but who can really understand the absolute truth in its entirety? That's the point what we made here. Text number 35. Etashatta bhagavato daiva karmatma rupinaha ka shraddhya dupakartam yogamaya balodayam. So something which is indescribable, like the universal form, and also the Sarga part, the creation, primary creation, that has been answered by Maitreya Muni to Vidurji. And now Maitreya Muni with all humility says, O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? It is not possible. In other words, Prabhupada, through this purpose, is going to bring on the point again and again. We cannot speculate about the absolute truth. Absolute truth is beyond our sense perception. It's something which is beyond sense perception. Can you really speculate about it? What can you really speculate? Okay, you speculate. You can speculate what you want to do. You can do daydreaming. But would that speculation, daydreaming, can you bring it to the truth? That's the point. So by speculation, you cannot come to the truth. That's the point, actually. It's not about you can't speculate. Therefore, he said speculation is useless. What's the point of speculating? So he says, who can describe? Nobody. Just think about Arjuna, isn't it? Now, Arjuna was with Krishna all through. Prabhu, we can take out the slide, please. Yeah. Arjuna was all through with Krishna. Even he could not understand the glories of the Lord. And same Arjuna in the battlefield, when he requested to Krishna to show his universal form. My dear Lord, you have told me that you are all pervasive. I would like to see that form. When he saw that form, Arjuna was terrified. Is same Arjuna, when Krishna would visit in the press, Krishna and Arjuna would sleep on the same bedstead. Is same Arjuna who would put his head on the lap of Krishna and take rest. Such an intimate relationship. Even in that intimate relationship, opulence of the Lord was not known in entirety. And when Lord Shri Krishna showed his universal form, Arjuna was so terrified. He went on his knees, sat down on his knees, and began to offer prayers. He's saying, my dear Lord, I'm trembling. I really cannot fathom this form of yours. It's so terrifying. I mean, what was so terrifying if you think about it for a Kshatriya? What is so terrifying for a Kshatriya? A Kshatriya, for him, just like a batsman, is he batsman gets terrified because they show Bhakta? A gully ka batsman will get terrified. But not, let's say Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, or the best of the batsmen. They'll not get terrified if you have a Shoaib Akhtar or whoever is a fast bowler in that sense. Similarly, when you're on the battlefield, a Kshatriya is supposed to get terrified with the bloodshed? Not at all. I mean, he's causing bloodshed. For him to swing his sword is like a batsman swinging his bat on the crease. It really doesn't make a difference. Now imagine that Arjuna was terrified because what he saw there are unlimited mouths and all the mouths are crushing the whole army. He got so terrified. So Arjuna couldn't fathom, Maitreya is saying couldn't fathom, only Kali Yuga Prani thing I can fathom. And then they write the commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. And that was Prabhupada's issue. Prabhupada said, why? Prabhupada was invited in a Bhagavad Gita Mela. And there is a Bhagavad Gita Sammelan, and every day Prabhupada was given a chance at the end to speak. And prior to that, for hours together, Prabhupada had to sit and hear Mayavadi's perspective on Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada told to the organizer, he said, what is the meaning of Bhagavad Gita Sammelan if your presenters itself do not accept Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And many of them do not even accept Krishna to be a historical person even. Forget about Supreme Personality of Godhead. They don't even accept Krishna to be an historical person. Who were these? Spiritual teachers. Big gurus of different ashrams. Like that. So I said, if in case you want to speak about, don't speak about Krishna if you don't believe in him. You write your own Gita, but if you write your own Gita, nobody's going to hear you. People come to you only because you're speaking of Bhagavad Gita. So they are running your own shop like that. All right. So question comes, okay, Maitreya Muni, if you don't know about Krishna, so why did you speak? When Vidura asked, text number 36, very important. I mean, what a tiny jiva can know about the Supreme Personality Godhead, but still we are speaking. Why we are speaking? Only for one purpose. Anyone, any thoughts? Why do we speak when we don't even know about Krishna? Guru's instruction, okay. Why do we speak? Why do we? I mean, if Maitreya Muni is saying that he cannot fathom, so who are we to fathom? Then why do we still speak? Or why am I speaking? Or why do we speak about Krishna? The only motivation, yes. That's it. For once, purification. Tadavag visargo, janataga viplavo, yasmin pratishlokam bhavdhavati api. Like that. Na yad vachas chatra padam hari yasho. Like those shloka comes like this. So the potency in the in repeating the words of Shastras, repeating the words of Acharya, the potency is so strong that it can override the effects of material contamination. First and foremost in our own heart, then in the heart of our audience. Text number 36, Maitreya Muni says the same thing. Tatapi kitayami anga yadamati yadashudam kitim hare swam satkartum giram anyabhidasitam. In spite of my inability, whatever I've been able to hear from the spiritual master, whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech. For otherwise, my power of speaking would remain unchaste, only for the purpose of purifying myself, like this. So, Prabhupada, very beautiful. All the purpose of these particular verses we are reading is very, very important. I'll just give you one or two points about it. So how is Maitreya Muni able to describe, when he has already said that I don't know, then how is he able to describe? Prabhupada writes in the second paragraph. Maitreya Muni's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste consciousness activity, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the abilities. This glorification of the Lord is not a product of research, but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of the spiritual master. So how he was able to repeat, how he was able to describe? Because he submissively heard from his spiritual master first. Second, it is also not possible to repeat all that one has heard from his spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. It does not matter whether the Lord's glories are fully explained or not. One must attempt to engage one's bodily, mental, and verbal activities in the transcendental glorification of the Lord. Otherwise, such activities will remain unchaste and impure. Text number 37. Ekantalabham vachasonupamsam shushlokamale gunavadamahum shrute cha vidvade upakritayam katha shudhayam upasam prayogam. A question can be asked, oh, should I really hear to such a person who himself is declaring that he doesn't know? Should I still hear from a person who is not confident if he knows about the Lord in entirety? Should I still hear from such a person or not? That a question arises. And secondly, should I hear from a person who's saying, I am only speaking for my purification, but he is still not pure? So why should I hear? So text number 37, Maitreya Muni says, Ekanta labham vachasona pumsam. Ekanta labham means the highest gain. Ekant, only. Labham. Vachaso. Vachaso means vachan. Vacha, speaking. Vachaso means having discussions. Shushlo kamale gunavadamahu. Kaha gaya hai, ahu kaha gaya hai. The only gain is having discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shrute vidvad virupakritayam. Shruti is here from Vidvadbhir, the learned people. Upakritayam katha shudhayam. Katha shudhayam. Katha means speech about the Lord. Shudhayam, which is all purifying. Up samprayogam serves the real purpose. The translation, the highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious sector. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the year is served just by being near them, like this. Gunavadam, qualities of the Lord. So what we should do? Machata madgata prana bodhiyantaha parasparam. And now Maitreya Muni gives an example. So he has explained that I'm not qualified, I cannot know. I speak. Why do I speak? I speak for my verification. And how I'm able to describe? By the grace of my special master. So now he gives a case study of Brahma. Very interesting case study of Brahmaji. Text number 38. Atmano avashito vassa mahima kavinadina samvassara sahasrante dhyayoga vipukaya. O my son, the original poet Brahma, after mature meditation for 1,000 celestial years, could know only that glories of the Supreme Soul, that the glories are inconceivable. तो क्या मिला आपको तपस्या करके? भगवान की शक्तियां, भगवान का गुणगान असंख्य है and उसको नहीं समझा जा सकता. So what was the realization of Brahma? The glories of the Lord are inconceivable. So here Prabhupada writes, froggish philosophers, they think with their tiny brain they can comment, they can speak about the Lord as if the Lord is conceivable, like this. So those who are Mahatmas, the great personalities, they are not interested in mental speculation, but they actually take to the devotional service of the Lord without the slightest deviation. Devotional service is manifested by the primary process of Shravanam and Kirtanam about the activities of the Lord. Text number 39. Now, Maitreya Muni goes further and he says, not only this, Hare Krishna. Not only this, Even not Brahma, even the Lord does not know about his opulences. Text number 39. Ato Bhagavato Maya Mayi Namapi Mohini Yaswayam Chatma Vartatma Naveda Kim Mutapari. The wonderful potency of the Supreme Personality Godhead is bewildering even to the jugglers. That potential power is unknown even to the unmanifest, self-sufficient Lord, so it is certainly unknown to others. अरे दुनिया का तो छोड़ो, भगवान को भी अपने बारे में पूर्णतः ज्ञान नहीं है. Like this. Prabhupada is such jugglers, mental speculators. When they are puzzled by the activities of the Lord, they try to adjust their bewilderment by saying that it is all mythology. What a profound statement. I might have quoted this, that many times you come across saints, seers, and sages who declare that all these Puranas are mythology. I met one in Badrinath also, one sage from Sadhu from Ayodhya. So he took my number, he calls me once in a while. So I was speaking to him. He called me other week. I was talking to him. And I mean, what do I talk? If he calls me, what do I speak? Anyways, I don't have time to speak. So when he called me, so I began to ask him questions about Ramcharitmanas. So I asked him, I read Ramcharitmanas. So I said, how many chapters are there in Ramcharitmanas? I was curious, frankly speaking, not that I was really testing him. So I began to ask him, I said, Ramcharitmanas, आपने तो पढ़ा होगा ये से बोले हाँ तो Ramcharitmanas पढ़ा है. तो मैंने कहा कितने चैप्टर हैं, कितने श्लोक हैं? And Ramcharitmanas is not like Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki Ramayana begins with Brahmaji instructing, Valmiki to write, and he is giving that wisdom and knowledge. However, in the case of Ramcharitmanas, it is a conversation. It is actually, I believe, Agastya Muni or some sage speaking Ram Katha to Lord Shiva. That's how Ramcharitmanas began. Therefore, in the beginning chapters of Ramcharitmanas, there is a lot of description of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the greatest of the devotee. Actually, he is the devotee of Lord Ram. Lord Ram is nothing but Sankarshan. So like that, Ramcharitmanas begins. So, and then I was having discussions. So Prabhu couldn't answer comprehensively, but their faith is very strong. Ramji, they're very, very strong faith. Like, they're very simple background. He has come from MP. Anyways, long story short, I spoke to him also when I spoke about a few of the things. And he said, oh, to mythology hai. Then I asked him, why do you say mythology? I asked the same question to one very great sage and seer of Ayodhya who had written many books on Ramcharitmanas, translated in English, etc. And there he quotes, फलाना ठिकाना श्रीमद् भागवतम mythology में कहा गया है. तो जब मैं उसका पढ़ रहा था, जब उसने श्रीमद् भागवत को mythology लिख दिया, मेरा तो खून उबल गया. I immediately wrote an email to him. मतलब प्रेम से ईमेल लिखी थी, चैलेंजिंग ईमेल नहीं थी, पर वो प्रभु जी थोड़ा गुस्सा हो गए, स्वामी जी गुस्सा हो गए. उन्होंने 2 पेज लंबा मुझे धमकाया, तुमने हमारी श्रद्धा पर डाउट करा, तुम जानते नहीं हम कौन है, फलाना ठिकाना. तो मैंने जब ईमेल पढ़ी तो मैं भी थोड़ा घबरा गया, ऐसा क्या हो गया. तो फिर मैंने 1 दिन का समय लिया, सोचा. मैंने कहा भाई राम जी के भक्त हैं, फालतू में वैष्णव अपराध हो जाएगा. तो मैंने प्रेम से ईमेल लिखा दोबारा. मैंने कहा मैं आपको चैलेंज नहीं कर रहा, आप तो ग्रेट डिवोटी हैं, but I as a novice trying to understand how can I put faith on my scripture when we ourselves call it as mythology. Then he wrote me a 4-page email. I have all the emails. If you want anyone interested to read the conversation, I can give you. But I still couldn't find the answer. The answer is here. Such jugglers and magicians of the mundane world are actually puzzled by the jugglery of the Lord in transcendental activities. So they are puzzled by the Lord's transcendental activities. And because they are not able to understand it, they try to adjust their bewilderment by saying that it is all mythology. Now, this is a generic statement. I am not applying this statement to that sage. I ain't applying. But the point is, one thing he wrote, he said, how can we know there have been so many additions have been made to Daivi Mahatma, this Mahatma, Shakti Mahatma, etc., etc. And we don't know if it is authorized source. It has been written by somebody in the recent past, etc., etc. So I said, well, I didn't write after that. I said, it's not going anywhere. If you're not sure about something, you say that we're not sure about the authenticity. If you're first of all not sure, then you don't quote it. For example, our acharyas, they never quote. If it is not sure, they never quote about it. You quote, and after quoting, you write, the mythology Devi Mahatma says like this. Isn't it going to hurt my faith? I mean, well, my faith is based on mythology. The Prabhu was saying because they cannot reconcile it, then they call it as mythology. How can Lord behave like this? There is, however, nothing impossible or mythological in the supreme omnipotent person. The most wonderful puzzle for the mundane regular is that while they remain calculating length and breadth of unlimited potential of the supreme person, his faithful devotees are set free from the bondage of material engagement simply by appreciating the wonderful jugglery. And Prabhupada gives an example of a banyan tree. In a banyan seed process, a small banyan fruit contains thousands of small seeds, and each seed holds potency of another tree, which again holds potency of many millions of such fruits as cause and effect. So the trees and seeds engage the devotees in meditation about the activities of the Lord. So when devotee sees, he says, "Oh, how great is my Lord!" And when the Jnani sees, "Oh, how can it happen like this?" He goes into mental speculation. So, like that is a thing which is mentioned here. Better to offer respects, text number 40. Yato prapya anvayartanta vachascha manasa saha aham chanya ime deva tasmai bhagavate namaha. Maitreya Muni is saying, what is better for me? Therefore, what is better is tasmai bhagavate namaha. I offer my respectful obeisance to the Supreme Personality Godhead, who is inconceivable, cannot be totally understood, comprehended. Words, mind, ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer respectful obeisances unto Him as a matter of sanity. Wow. Last concluding points. With devotion, he offers a sincere surrender. Namaha to the Supreme Personality of God. Prabhupada, one has to follow in the footsteps of great sages and devotees like Maitreya and Vidura. Maharaj, Parashya, and Sukdev Goswami, and engaged in transcendent devotional service of the Lord, and one would know him, his ultimate feature, which is above Brahman Paramatma. Prabhupada is making this point in a Bhagavad Gita Sammelan, which was for a 5-day event. And many stalwart sages had come. Very famous names had come. And Prabhupada was saying, what are these people talking about it? Useless. They are calling Krishna, they're calling Arjuna as an allegory. Many of them don't even believe he existed. They wear nice chamchamata or saffron robe. Maybe they may have a big beard. They may be chanting the mantras of Ram or Krishna, Om Namah Shivaya, etc. You go to UP, sadhu ka maya nagri hai wo. You go to Bombay, Bahiranga Shakti ka Mahamaya ka Maya Jal hai. So UP ko not Yoga Maya Jal, but वो अलग ही माया जाल है. अलग-अलग साधु संत वहां पे हरे, and many have a lot of political affiliations. So I observed one thing with this sadhu who got in touch with me. I asked him, I said, what's your story? I mean, we just met coincidentally in Badrinath. Just taking darshan. He saw me, he came to me, started talking. He said, please give me your number. Like that, it all began like this, Badrinath temple. It was a pretty interesting Badrinath temple visit. Many interesting things happened that night. And then he calls like that. So when he called me last time, so I asked him, I said, what's your story? How did you become a sadhu? I mean, I don't know what he's up to talk to me. आप पुणे में रहते हो तो वो पुणे के बारे में पूछता रहता है. हम पुणे में आएंगे, मिलेंगे, देखोगे तो it's like kind of booking, making an advance booking kind of thing. I felt like this. So I was trying to exclude the conversation and come to what आज होके कर लेंगे, no problem. So I said अपनी story बताओ. And very nice person. राम जी की जब इच्छा होगी, very nice, बात करो तो मन खुश हो जाए, बिल्कुल. मतलब कोई गलती है ना, मैं मतलब वेरी नाइस. राम जी की इच्छा होगी तो आ जाएंगे. बड़े प्रेम से मीठे मीठे वचन. राम जी की इच्छा, राम जी, राम जी कैसे हैं आप? मैं बोलता हूँ हरे कृष्णा, बोलेगा राम जी. Like this conversation. तो मैंने पूछा, what's your story, Baba? Young man, maybe up to of my age, something, around 40, 35, 40. I said, what's your story? बोला कुछ नहीं, राम जी की इच्छा थी, राम जी ने बुला लिया. हर चीज में राम जी, हर चीज राम जी. Very interesting, very interesting. Okay, so he was a young boy. He left and he went to Varanasi, Ayodhya or something, and he joined an ashram there and he's been serving. So मैंने पूछा आप सेवा क्या करते हो? बोले हमारी तो बहुत सेवा होती है अयोध्या में राम जी की कृपा से. मैंने कहा राम जी की कृपा से जवाब भी दे दो क्या सेवा होती है भाई? क्या सेवा होती है आपकी? So then he told me, you know, हम लोग प्रसादम वितरण करते हैं. Like that he had some seva kind of thing. So I noticed with him and with my interaction with others, you know, they have their past karma, you know, of bhakti, some very strong inclination towards spiritual truth, and they go out, they leave their home. He left his home early in the age. You know, हम आपको धक्का मार मार के घर से बाहर निकालने का प्रयत्न करते हैं. इस्कॉन वाला घरों में घुस घुस के लोगों को बोलता है बाहर निकलो, कब तक घर में बैठे रहोगे? हाँ, है ना. बुक वितरण के मामले से डोर टू डोर जाके बुक वितरण करते हैं और फिर उसमें कोई भक्त बन जाए तो हम पार्टी बनाते हैं, चलो एक तो भक्त बना. नाउ यहाँ ये व्यक्ति सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ के अपने आप जाते हैं. एंड इमेजिन एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दे गेट अ शेल्टर ऑफ अ गुरु, वेरी नाइस गुरु, नो डाउट. येट ही सेज ये भागवत पुराण माइथोलॉजिकल है. And many of these sages and those who run ashrams, many of them have very strong political affiliations. अभी वाराणसी में कुछ महीने साल पहले की बात है ना, किसी बहुत बड़े अखाड़े के गुरु का मृत्यु हुआ था. And the whole वाराणसी इलाहाबाद में, you know, and that turned out to be a very strong political connection with the SP party. And उसके जो चेले थे अय्याश थे, पूरे साधु के कपड़े पहन के घुमा करते थे. Like this, I mean, UP is Maya Nagari in that sense. Yeah, matrimony, you know, by the grace of Prabhupada. Look, matrimony is saying, I take shelter. Let's come to chapter 7. Very, very beautiful chapter. Very fantastic chapter. So what's happening in this chapter is, here, can we have the slide where the summary is shown, Prabhu? So in this chapter, or leave it, no problem. In this chapter, Vidurji asks further question to matrimony. And particularly the question is asked about Ishvara and Jiva. What is the question about Jiva? This has been established that Jiva is a part and parcel of the Lord, Amsha of the Lord. Amevamsu Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita itself. Okay. Hari Bol. Oh, you take it out, take it out. I'm getting distracted because you're not able to follow up. Leave it. Hare Krishna. Just sit relaxed. I'm getting distracted. What was I saying? So Jiva is already been identified as a part and parcel of the Lord. So Lord is Satchidananda. So question comes, why does Jiva suffers? आप बोलोगे भगवद गीता के ज्ञान के बल पर कर्म के कारण. Yes? Correct? It's a partial truth, not the complete truth. It's correct. But the question is still, Jiva, Atma should not struggle, na? It's Satchidananda. Atma doesn't get karma. It's a subtle body. So that's the question is asked. Why does a living entity suffer? Other thing, question about the Lord. Now, why Lord, who is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of this creation, if he is Supreme Personality Godhead? Supreme Personality Godhead means Swatas Traptasya and Nivratasya. Traptasya means fully satisfied. If you're fully satisfied, then why would you create this material world? If you're fully satisfied, why would you create a material world? For the Lord, this material world is like a plaything. Just like a child goes onto the beach, he takes a sand and builds a castle. That's a plaything. By his own will, he builds a castle. By his own will, he destroys it. Or else by the will of the wave comes and washes it. So like this, Lord builds it and Lord destroys it and also maintains it. So your creation is like a plaything for him. But why is he engaged into these playful things? Anyone gets into a playful thing only when he's lacking something. Right? You need entertainment because you're missing something in your life. But the Lord is already fully satisfied, Atma Ram, then why he has to do that? Like this. Another thing is, how does soul with Satchitananda has got entangled with the material? These are the two very important questions which are asked. Let's take a look at it quickly. So I'll read out the translations now. Text number 1, Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya the great sage was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of the Ipan Vyasa, expressed a request in a pleasing manner. And Vidurji said, what did Vidurji said? Brahman katam bhagavata chinmatrasya vikarinaha Leelaya chapi yujyeran Nirgunasya guna kriya. Sri Vidura said, I'll not go in Sanskrit, it'll take time. I'll just continue. Oh, great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of God is a complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and the activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? It's a very fundamental, very important question. I wish Gyanis can be taught this subject matter. They'll have a far better clarity. What is the question asked is, if the Lord is beyond the modes of material nature, then how can you, for example, how many of you agree if you enter into the water or river, would you get wet? Yes or no? 100%, everyone. Similarly, when the Lord enters into this material creation, which is surcharged with modes of material nature, what happens with us? Imagine this material creation to a water. When a living entity enters into the water or river, he gets wet. Similarly, when a living entity which is pure enters into this material world, gets contaminated by the modes of material nature. So how come the Lord, when he is entering, is not getting affected? With this material creation, nothing but modes of material nature. How is it possible? He appears, he performs pastimes. So are you saying you have entered into the river, you're swimming into the river, but the water is not touching you? Is that question clear? That's the question asked. Very, very important question. And that is where the Gyanis or Mayavadis get confused. They say, oh, that is not the Supreme Personality of God. Brahman never comes into the material world. That's not possible. Like that, they talk about it. They have it. Okay, so very beautiful purport. You can read it. Let's go to the next one. Prabhupada gives the answer in the purport only. Text number 3, another question he asked. Kridayamudayamo rabhisya kama chikri Disanyataha swatastrtasya chakatam nivritasya sadanyata. As I said, the Lord is, tritasya, swatas, atmaram, nivritasya. He doesn't need anything. Then why does he create, maintain, and destroy like a plaything? Text number 4. If by his self-shelter potency of the 3 modes of material nature, the Lord has caused a creation. He maintains, and by his own energy, he causes destruction again and again. Why he does so? So that's the question about the Lord. First thing about the Lord, how he enters into the material creation, performs his pastime, yet not getting affected by the modes of material nature. Or if he is getting affected by the modes of material nature, then which means modes of material nature are superior to the Lord. Please clarify. How is it possible not getting affected? Second thing is, if Lord is Atmaram, then why is he creating this creation as a plaything? Create, maintain, destroy. What is his need for it? Text number 5. The second question, or now the second concept is Jiva, about the soul. The pure soul is pure consciousness, never out of consciousness, either due to circumstance, time, situation, beings, or the cause. Soul is soul, completely pure. How has it got covered over by nescience, ignorance? What is that shlok? Tesham evanukam partam aham agyana ajam tamaha. What is that? Aham ajam agyana tamaha. Agyana, tamaha means darkness. Agyana means ignorance. I, by my mercy, Krishna says, 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 11. He says, by my cause and mercy, I destroy the ignorance that has covered the living entity. The question is asked here, how a living entity can be covered over by ignorance, like this. Very beautiful purports. Okay, text number 6. We'll go to the answers directly. Text number 6, purport gives the answer in the purport also. Bhagavan eka evesha sarva kshetreshu avastitaha amushya durbhavata klesho va karma bhi kritaha. He says, Vidurji says, I'm surprised, I'm amazed. For an example, the Lord is our Father, that much is agreed upon. Now, imagine the child is playing on the ground and the dog attacks on the child. The child would be terrified, child would be in fear, child would be screaming with pain. Would any mother, father allow the attack to happen? Yes or no?
No.
So Vidurji is asking question, if the Lord is present in the heart of every living entity, despite the presence of the Lord, yet living entity is struggling. Very interesting question. Therefore I said, Vidurasya mala atmanaha. Vidurji ke dwara, nahi alpartha do tasya. Alp artha. ऐसे मीनिंगलेस इंक्वायरी तो पूछ नहीं सकते विदुर जी. क्या thoughtful है. This is a very, very important chapter. So that's the question we asked. How is it? Lord is a super service situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entity activity results in misfortune and misery? Text number 7. एतस्मिन् मे मनो विद्मन् खिद्यते ज्ञान संकते तन्ना परानुदो विभु कश्मलं मानसं कश्मलम कश्मलम मतलब गंदगी मतलब अज्ञानता. My dear Maitrimuni, by your mercy kindly destroy my ignorance. Text number 8, Maitrimuni begins to speak. Shri Shukavacha Saitam Jodita Shatra Tattva Jigyasuna Munihi Pratyaha Bhagavachuttaha Saminiva Gata Samaya. O King Maitreya, Sri Sukdev Goswami said, O King, Maitreya Muni, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished. But then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Oh, that's a beautiful purport. So even Maitreya Muni was astonished at the inquiries. Not a simple question to answer, huh? These questions only have led to complete confusion about spirituality. I again repeat the questions which Vidura asked. Very important subject matter. Vidura is asking, if a living entity enters into a water river, he's going to get drenched. So when a living entity enters the material world, he gets contaminated with the modes. So when the Lord enters, how is he not wet? How is it possible? And these Mayavadi cannot understand that. First question. Second question, if Lord is Atma Rama, why is he creating this material world as his plaything? Why is he plaything? Because he creates, maintains, destroys. अब तुम खेलने जाते हो परमानेंट थोड़ा खेलते हो, खेल के वापस आ गए. So why Lord is doing like this? Second question. Now about Jiva. Jiva is all pure. Then how did he got covered over by ignorance? We are part and parcel of the Lord. So why did we got covered over by ignorance? And if the Lord is residing in the heart, which means the Lord is always present with the living entity, just like the mother is always present with the child, yet how a child can be attacked by a dog? Similarly, how a living entity can be attacked by a dog like Maya and be tormented? Good questions. So Maitreya Muni is astonished. Well, kya puch liya subah se? Subtle question puchte. Now Prabhupada gives a very beautiful purport. Text number 8, and the middle of the purport Prabhupada writes, anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. Although devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate manner. Give me a justification. Give me a Shastra Praman for this statement. I'll repeat again. Anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. Although devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate matter. मतलब 20-22 साल में लोग जब ब्रह्मचर्य आश्रम ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं उनको गृहस्थ जीवन के बारे में पूरा ज्ञान मिल जाता है. बड़े बड़े प्रवचन देते हैं, हाँ है ना. प्रश्न बनता है शादी है नहीं, बच्चे है नहीं, प्रवचन दे रहे हैं यार, पेरेंटिंग कैसे करी जाती है. तभी हाल ही में वो समर कैंप था ना, कल्चरल इवेंट. So they gave me the topic parenting. I said I am a very bad child. I left my parents and I have no child. Both the situation I cannot speak on parenting. I have no right to speak on the subject matter of parenting. What can I speak on parenting? So बोले प्रभु जी ने अब तो अनाउंस कर दिया, कुछ ना कुछ तो बोलना पड़ेगा. मैंने कहा I speak on education. Remember you heard that? It was all about education. How the responsibility of the parents is to give the right education. That's it. How can a brahmachari speak about parenting? I mean, this is too much, isn't it? Height of it. This is height of overconfidence. हमें सब पता है, हम सब चीज के ज्ञानी हैं. Okay, so now justify this point which Prabhupada says here. Yes, बोलो. तेषां सतयुक्तां तो विधाता प्रीति योगम. Okay, so भगवान बुद्धि देते हैं. Okay, fine. What else? Good reference. Huh? Yeah, that's also good. Sarvasachaham. नहीं भगवान बैठे हैं ना. Therefore, magic happens. Miracle happens when question answer happens. When a person asks a question, I'll put it this way. If an audience is serious and sincere, the conversation becomes very enlightening. Why? Because the super soul inspires the speaker to speak accordingly. It's very interesting. And that time speaker wonders, क्या क्या बोल दिया मैंने? सोचा भी नहीं था. ये मेरे notes में तो लिखा ही नहीं हुआ था. These are outside of my notes point. That happens, Paramatma inspires. Now, it is not a credit of the speaker. Speaker has his credit, no doubt about it. But it is also credit of the audience. Because the audience was very inquisitive. And that we see here in the case of Vidurji and Maitreya. Vidurji is so inquisitive. What a profound question he has asked. Amazing question, isn't it? And Maitreya Muni ने question सुना तो वो भी हैरान हो गए ये क्या पूछा. Astonished. I mean, somebody asks you, are you body or soul? Is there astonishment? Any astonishment? No. Is there spiritual any astonishment? Astonishment happens when you are thinking, हाँ थोड़ा difficult question है. Then astonishment. Maitreya is astonished, and then it is said, and he immediately began to answer. Why? Paramatma inspired. So let's see what the Paramatma speaks. Okay, before the Paramatma speaks, I would have to forcefully make it 2 parts. What do I do? Let's see. What do we have? Yeah, I will have to do it 2 parts. We can't make it in 1 part, this thing. So beautiful and important chapter. Let's have a little discussion here now. Let's hear with all of you, the bhaktas and jnanis and yogis. How would you like to answer these inquiries? So can we have our devotees switch on their cameras if they can? In case if you're having your breakfast or you're cooking in the kitchen, that's all right. That we're going to open it for some discussion here. So if a question is asked to you, let's begin with the difficult questions, but let's try. Okay, I'll summarize the answer. So let's begin with first thing. If the Lord is all satisfied, all purna, then why is he creating the material world? What is the need for it? What would you like to answer?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
All right. Prashant Prabhu, let's hear from you. What would you like to answer? You're raising your hand. These are, I'm telling you, these really troubles the mind of those jnanis, huh? If you're able to answer, therefore yogina mapi sarvesham. You're better than all the yogis and jnanis. Go ahead now. Then okay, Madan Rashti has a hand up. After that will come. Go ahead.
Jiva has free will. That's where Bhagavan का जो प्रेम है वो exist करता है. So to fulfill the desire of Jiva that I want to enjoy by myself, he created this world.
Okay, good. Let's hear from Madan Rashti, then I'll speak what you said. Go ahead, Madan.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, for our
Wait. I can't
reformation.
really hear your voice. Let me just check my sound settings. Now volume. Go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I was saying for our reformation, because we've done so many bad karmas in the past. So we are supposed to be in a jail.
That itself leads to a question. In spiritual world, there is no bad karma.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, Kaushal Prabhu, go ahead. Not audible at all.
Huh?
Yes, audible now.
Yeah.
See, the reason I'm
Primarily
opening
for-
this forum, the reason I'm opening this forum for discussion, because here Maitreya Muni is gonna answer in the most profound way. He's gonna give an analogy, which I want all of you to by heart. But it ain't an easy analogy. So before we get into it, I want you to open up your mind. Let's take some inputs and then we'll go to the analogy if time permits. Yes, Kaushal.
Primarily to facilitate the desires of the individual souls to enjoy independently.
Correct. That's the point. Mother Roshni made a point of reformation, but she added a point of karma kind of a thing. And that's what Prashant Sabra was saying. Agreed. So idea is because it was a living entity's desire, not Lord's desire. For Lord, it's a burden of love. That's the vision of bhaktas. That's what we see. So Lord doing everything here is a burden of love. Just like, child wants to go and play in a rainy day. The mother knows the child will fall sick and unnecessarily will create a trouble for me. But the child is obstinate. Nahi, man, nahi. माँ ने दरवाजा बंद कर दिया है, नहीं, चीख रहा है, चिल्ला रहा है. I mean, brahmacharis may not know, but parents will know of it. Then being forced by the child, what would the parent do? Okay, यार, अब ये हल्ला इतना मचा रहा है, हमें भी शांति से नहीं बैठने दे रहा है. He would learn by his own experience. Let him go out. Open the door, go out. Knowing the fact he's going to come back, going to fall sick, and I only have to serve him. That is called as burden of love. The parents open the door, child goes out, comes back, falls sick, and then he's all bedridden, and the father is massaging his forehead, putting that, what they call, thanda kapda, garam kapda jo bhi hota hai. Mother is preparing, what you call, health prasadam, etc., etc. It's an unnecessary work. So we, because of our misdeeds, have created a burden for the Lord. Not that we are doing a great favor by reforming ourselves. Not that by chanting the holy names of the Lord. Not that by saving seva. For example, maybe I'm going a little bit off the topic, but not exactly off the topic. We had this Gundicha Marjanam recently, right? There are many lessons from Gundicha Marjanam. The very first lesson of Gundicha Marjanam for a devotee is, in relation to this, what we're talking about, is to take initiative. Take initiative. Like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to go into the to do Gundicha Marjanam. And he didn't ask anyone. He did it. And seeing him, everyone took an initiative. Hum bhi karenge. So take initiative, which means we devotees should be eager for looking for seva. He should not sit back thinking that jab tak bolenge nahi, kuch nahi karunga. We should take initiative. Similarly, knowing the fact that I have caused trouble to the Lord, so we should take initiative for our reformation. We should be willing to perform tapasya. That's the point. It's a good answer. Okay, so that was the first thing. Second, I'm gonna play things wali baat ho gayi. Now, what would you say, as I gave an analogy, if a person enters into the water, has to get wet? So when Lord enters, comes into this material world, how he is not affected by the modes of material nature? How is he not affected by the modes of material nature? You have entered into the river. Whoever you are, now when Lord enters into this world, we are saying he is not under the modes of material nature. He is not affected by the modes of material nature. And the Gyanis cannot believe it. How is it ever possible? On top of it, Lord's pastimes are like this. Look at in the case of Ram and Krishna. Let's talk about Lord Ram and Lord Krishna for a second. Lord Ram, he was asked to leave his kingdom. Now looks like a karmic effect. Now today morning, he's gonna get, he would be, appointed as a king of Ayodhya. Suddenly overnight, his destiny changed. I'm seeing it as a karmi. His destiny changed. And now he has to leave. Question arises for a layman, if he's a supreme person in Godhead, can't he work on his own destiny? He's said to know about destiny of you all. His destiny got spoiled, he had to go to the forest. And the twist is his own wife got kidnapped. That is so unbelievable for people to understand this. How can you call such a person as a Lord? Sadhguru makes his point openly. How Ram? Ram is a historic person. Ram is a great king. Ram is not Lord. He says, well, how can you call him a Lord when he could not protect his wife? And he was making a point. He could not protect his Ayodhya. People still worship him as Ram. Despite getting independence, Ayodhya still is not of Hindus. Like that, he was making a point. So Gyanis cannot understand. These are word jugglers. Now look at Lord Shri Krishna. Lord Shri Krishna, भगवान अवतरित हो रहे हैं. समारोह होना चाहिए, एक सेलिब्रेशन होनी चाहिए. कैसी सुनसान काला ग्रह में भगवान का जन्म हुआ. His parents were imprisoned. And after yet even, okay, ठीक है, भगवान अवतरित नहीं हुए थे इसलिए माँ बाप imprisoned थे. Even after Krishna appearing, Devaki and Vasudeva were still behind the bars. Somebody may raise a question, यार कैसा भगवान अपने माँ बाप को जेल से नहीं छुड़ा पाया? कैसा भगवान अपनी गर्लफ्रेंड से शादी नहीं कर पाया? Radha Rani was his beloved, couldn't get married. Like that, so many things can be questioned about it. People say, one argument is, Lord says, I appear in this world, paritana sadhana vinashaya cha dushkritam. दुष्टों का नाश करने के लिए 90 साल लगे थे दुष्टों का नाश करने के लिए. Krishna was 89 years old at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. कैसा भगवान? भगवान होता है खत्म. That's how the movies में दिखाते हैं ना, चुटकी बजे खत्म हो गया. So how is it? So now if you look at it, there's all these conflicting situations. Jnanis and they are bewildered. People who are themselves worshipping Lord Ram are bewildered because of all this thing. They have no answer, conclusive answer for that. But because in the past life they've had some devotion, so they have natural devotion for Lord. So how would you like to answer? It very much looks like everything is happening under the modes of material nature. Nowhere it looks like Lord is Swatantra, Lord is independent. So what is an answer? Mother Chintamani. Yeah, go ahead. Bhakti Shastri students should know it very well.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Lord is enacting, when Lord comes, he comes with some purpose and he is enacting a pastime. So in that various people are in various roles. So for us it is, we are not doing any pastime.
Yeah, so therefore Gyan is called as emotional, sentimental. For such an answer, we will be tagged as sentimental. बस तुम लोग जैसे बाहर में कहता है ना, if you speak in favor of Modi, Godi media. You're emotional, you're sentimental, you've lost your intellectual ability to think about it. ये क्या है? भगवान ने पेशाब करा तो लीला, हमने करी तो clearing. Lord passes urine, he does his leela, that he goes steals butter, that leela. I do leela, so I go behind the bar. Ye kaisi leela? So, okay, a philosophical answer. Shastra Praman. Yes, Mother Jyoti. Unmute.
Prabhuji, I'm attempting to answer only that why Lord is not affected by the modes of material nature. Is it because the material nature has can influence only matter and material qualities, whereas the Lord is
Jiva is matter or spirit?
Jiva is spirit, but I mean the spirit remains uncontaminated.
But that's what Vidura is asking now. That's the next question. I'm coming to that question. If we are spirit soul, how are we covered over by ignorance? We are not uncontaminated. We got contaminated.
Because we are forced to accept a material body depending on our past karmas.
Now, when you say forced, then it looks like Lord sent us here.
Our past karmas have sent us here.
So spiritual world, there were no past karma. All right.
The Lord is not having any material qualities, and he is completely spiritual, so material nature has no control over him.
Yeah, therefore we are called as sentimental. Devotees are sentimental. Lord is Leela, Lord has no material qualities. Shastra Praman, Shastra Praman. Yes, Madan Sundar.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I just tried to attempt both the questions. One is Krishna actually says in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm coming here, he comes here to perform in the sense that he comes as.
That's okay. First part is done. You're talking Paritranaya Sadhuna Vinashya Dushkatam. I come to destroy and establish religion. Come to the second question.
He comes here to as a human being to show actually how one has to behave in different circumstances.
Yeah, that's in the third chapter. What is that? What is that shloka?
Yes, Prabhu, yes, Prabhu. That's right.
Okay. That's okay. The question about how is it not affected by the modes?
Yes, that just as the king who makes the laws and all is not affected by the laws, similarly, even
that's Prabhupada's example, Shastra Praman. We are addressing a Jnani. Are, it's a simple question. Devi Yesha Gunamai Mamaya Duratya.
Correct.
So many times Krishna says,
created it.
so many times, 14th chapter, Krishna says again, this is my energy.
This is my energy. Yes, great.
Yeah, you all took so long for this simple point. ठीक है. Now come to the second thing. How a jiva is covered over by ignorance. Jiva is pure soul. How can he covered over by ignorance? Second thing is how a jiva who is Satchit Ananda could experience suffering. Karma ruled out, na? I already ruled out karma beforehand. This is even before karma started. Okay, this is going to be pretty tricky. Let me try to simplify the analogy and we'll take the discussion for the next time. So, the question here is, two questions asked by Viduji. How a living entity is put into ignorance? Living entity is put into ignorance by the Lord. Now, how living entity is put into ignorance by the Lord? That is not the will of the Lord. That was the will of the living entity. How the will of the living entity? Living entity decided to walk away from the Lord. The moment a living entity walks away from the Lord, he gets covered over by ignorance. Now, when I say the Lord put him in ignorance, which means that Shakti, the ignorance as an energy, is not an independent energy. It belongs to Lord. Now, let's take an example, simple example. When you are facing towards the sun, can you see your shadow? No. You cannot see the shadow. When you turn around, then you can see the shadow. Now, shadow is being created by you or by the sun? Shadow is created by sun. So, ignorance is created by Krishna. Darkness is created by Krishna. But if you are looking towards the Lord, like if you're looking to the sun, then you cannot be affected by the darkness. So, Krishna is the source of all. Many people think, okay, Krishna is there, Lord is there, but something is happening on its own. No, the darkness. Okay. Now, why a living entity suffers? For example, let's take a case of this thing, Hare Krishna. Why a living entity suffers is the point. Sorry, I got distracted. Somebody is in the kitchen and got to be muted here. 1 second. Just completely lost track of my thought. So what were we talking about? Why a living entity suffers in this world and why he puts into ignorance? Let's extend this. Let's take these two questions together. Just like now you look at outside, even right now, sun is existing, yes or no? Can you see the sun? Is it sun's problem, your problem? Now, coming back to the question, when Lord entered into the world, why Lord is not covered over by material nature or modes of material nature? If you look at the clouds have covered us, but clouds have not covered the sun. Cloud has covered whom? The living entity. We, tiny living entity, has got covered over the cloud, because of which we are not able to see the sun. Now, these clouds, which can be called as the laws of material nature or the material modes, are whose energy? Sun's energy. Who created the clouds? Sun. The water gets evaporated from the ocean, turns into a cloud, and that cloud covers us. So, cloud is created by whom? The sun. So, these laws of the modes of material nature or ignorance is created by whom? The Lord. It cannot cover the Lord. Is that clear? Now, let's come to the third point. Why a living entity suffers? Living entity does not suffer. He only thinks he is suffering. How? Example gives matrimony. This is fantastic. Huh? These are the beautiful analogies given here. If you can just memorize and thoroughly understand once now, you can just silent any Gyani and this word jugglers about the subject matter of Lord. Imagine a moonlit night, you are in Mahabaleshwar at the bank of Krishna River, and you're looking at the stars and the moon, not in the sky, but in the river, right? It's a moonlit night, you see that. And imagine you pick a stone, you throw a stone into the river. The moment you throw a stone, there will be ripples. There is a small child. He says, "Oh, Father, look, the moon and stars are shaking. The moon and stars are shaking." What would you say? Is that correct? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No.
Moon and stars are shaking? Moon and stars are as it is in the sky. But what is shaking? What is disturbed? Let's put it disturbed. What is disturbed? Reflection. Similarly, Atma never suffers. It is only the reflection. Which means, what is that reflection? When we begin to identify with our reflection, what is that reflection is? Body. When we begin to identify with the body, then our suffering begins. The moment we disconnect ourselves from this bodily identification, our suffering ceases to exist. That's all. Chapter over. Chapter over नहीं है, प्रश्नों का जवाब मिला है. फिर विदुर जी आगे बोलेंगे. विदुर जी will share his realization after hearing these answers. His realization is also profound. He'll share his realization to, kind of attest what Maitri Muni has said. All right. So any question, clarification? This analogy of moon is a big analogy. I'll take it next time and explain it when we read the puppet. And next time we'll finish the 7th chapter like this. Yes, Prabhu. Let's open the forum. Anshul Prabhu. This is matrimony. Matrimony. Prabhupada only repeated. This is all. And matrimony is also repeating. Like this. Whatever Prabhupada says, whatever Prabhupada's statement, you'll find some reference somewhere if you read scriptures. What he has done, he would take it and make it something which is understandable to you. Just like I kind of made a point, while explaining the question of Vidurji, how Lord, when he comes to the material world, does not get contaminated. That's not Prabhupada's road. I made that analogy. Just like somebody enters into the river, wouldn't get wet or not? So that was just to make an analogy to help you understand the question. That much. But the original concept is in scriptures. So Prabhupada will give an example, modern day example, to help us understand the concept. But the original concept is in the scriptures. Okay. This moon example is given by matrimony. Analogy is given by matrimony. The cloud example, analogy is given by matrimony. Like this. And after this chapter, now we would have creation, actual creation, where living entities will take birth. So that will become a little story based. There will be more lessons, story based lessons. This philosophy in terms of creation and all that will conclude. So tomorrow, next week, we'll conclude the 7th chapter, and then we'll take 8th chapter on. It will be a little interesting. It will be more story format like that. So once again, I reiterate, very, very complicated questions have been answered so easily by our acharyas, and by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we have the answer for it. How a Lord who enters into the material world does not get contaminated by modes of material nature. Lord is Atmaram, then why does he create, maintain, and destroy this world again and again? He should not be engaged into it. And a living entity is all pure. How does he get covered by ignorance? He gets covered over by, just like we get covered over by clouds. We cannot see the sun. The sun is not covered over the clouds, but we are covered over. So we are covered over by Lord's energy only. Ignorance is also Lord's energy. Just like we look at the sun, there's no reflection, but when we turn around, there is our shadow. So when we turn away from the Lord, we get covered over by his potency, which is called as forgetfulness. That is what Krishna says in 10th chapter, verse 11, Teshnam ivanukampatam aham agyan ajamtamaha. Like that. And why a living entity suffers? An example was given of a moon. Moonlit night. So when you throw a stone in the river, there is a disturbance in the river. When the disturbance in the river, the moon begins to shiver. Oh, there's a disturbance in the moon? No. It is only in the reflection, pratibim. So as strongly we identify with our mind and senses, to that much degree we'll have an experience of suffering. To that much degree we'll have an experience of suffering. Therefore, to conclude, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadava Nirvapanam, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. I guess today morning or yesterday morning I was making a point. Anandam Buddhi Pratipadam Purnamitas. So, like the verse goes on. So, Chandrika, why it is compared to Chandrika, chanting the holiness of the Lord? Moon means cooling effect. What is the cooling effect? When you take to the spiritual life, ideally it should be happening, and it's going to happen in a painful way because we're going to go through that painful experience within ourselves. Cooling effect means now our mind is becoming less and less affected by what is happening outside of us. We all have come with our own preconceived ideas of what respect is, what honor is, how to behave, not behave. And when those are not met, we get agitated and disturbed. And therefore he said, when you take to the chanting of the holiness of the Lord, when you're chanting attentively, the cooling effects, the mind becomes calm. So this humility and all these qualities, these are what natural symptom. You cannot acquire it. You cannot really cultivate it like that. There's no formula to cultivate it. It is only, therefore, again it is said, by the grace. So when we take to the process of bhakti, then this begins to manifest automatically. For that, our mind has to really get purified of many of the things. So that's the thing. Therefore, in this context, I was making a point, and I'll conclude with that. Devotees of the Lord do not get agitated and disturbed, particularly when they are offended. Parishit Maharaj, he said, so be it. Early retirement, balle balle. He went to the bank of the Yamuna Ganges, bank of the Ganges. That's the place where he comes. What is it called? Sukratal. He went there. Then we had Amrish Maharaj. To kill him right in front of eyes, Durvasa Muni created a big demon. Amrish chanted, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He chanted as if about to give Bhagavatam class. Pretty cool, relax. Then we had Chitraketu Maharaj. Mother Parvati cursed him. Take up birth as a demon. Can you imagine? What a severe things. Our Parishit Maharaj was cursed to die. Amrish Maharaj had to be killed by a demon in front of everyone. And Chitraketu Maharaj has been cursed to die and become a demon. Chitraketu Maharaj is glorifying. I mean, whose mind can tolerate it? Think about it. Can anyone else tolerate it? Anyone can tolerate this? Think about it. I mean, Vidura's reaction. I just want all of you to think about it. Vidura's reaction. Duryodhana spoke so harshly. Vidura did not only insult Vidurji. I'm fine. I would not quote the case of Vidurji in that situation. But Duryodhana insulted Vidur ki maa. मेरी माँ को कैसे बोला तुमने? बचपन में याद है जब स्कूल में लड़ाई हुआ करती थी बच्चों के बीच में, तुमने मेरी माँ के बारे में कैसे बोल दिया? Yes or no? So that's interesting thing. Vidurji's माँ, I mean, she was called as a prostitute. She was a maid servant, a prostitute. How, maid servant, kept maid servant. You're a son of a kept maid servant. Like that he spoke. Vidurji walked away. How? And now, of course, we have changed a lot. I believe all of you would agree with that. Now go back in the beginning before we took through the process of chanting the holy names. How easily we used to get agitated, yes or no? How many of you have experienced you're driving, you're walking on a street, पीछे से कोई गाड़ी honk कर रहा है, कितना गुस्सा आता था? मन में आता था, ओए, तेरे बाप के सड़क है क्या? Yes or no? How angry we'll become for very, very petty issues. किसी ने हमें ढंग से रेस्पेक्टफुल देखा नहीं, बोला तो छोड़ो, देखा भी नहीं प्रेम भरी आंखों से लोगों का, और कुछ हो जाता है हल्का सा, जीवन के उपरांत याद रखते हैं उसने ऐसा किया. And you see how it keeps coming back in our conversation again. Have you seen that? How quickly we develop revengeful mentality? And we make it as our life's mission to destroy the name and fame of that person. 10 लोग बताएंगे ऐसे ही करता है ये, इस पे भरोसा मत करना, कभी कुछ भी कर देगा. मैंने किसका क्या बिगाड़ा था? क्या आपको लगता नहीं सम्यक ऋषि ने कुछ ज्यादा ही बड़ी जाति करी है? It's a fair question. Parishit Guru asked, hey Sukadeva Goswami, you're the most learned. Don't you think your fellow partner in a Brahman community he did too much jati against me? कोई गुस्सा था, गाली दे देता, शराब दे दिया उसके बच्चे ने. What is this? And look in the case of anywhere. Vidurji is not asking about Duryodhana, anyone. It's so amazing, so amazing. This is something which is bound to happen. We should take bhakti wholeheartedly. Imagine yourself in a situation where your mind is free from all this grief and things which produce grief in your life. How peaceful life would be. And this material world becomes Vaikuntha then. It's all here. Sara kachra bhara hua hai. Kashmalam vidunoti idratsatam. Like this. Hare Krishna. So some of the thoughts onto the subject matter like this. So by chanting the holy names of the Lord. So I made this point just to reiterate. In fact, it was an indirect glorification of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada didn't only give us the knowledge of the most complicated subject matter, but He also gave us the best process. Because knowledge is not sufficient if you don't have a process. We got the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. What else do we need? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, just by chanting, Param, what is that? Sankirtan. Param Vijyate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Param Vijyate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Just by chanting the holy name, all these effects will happen. Mind will become friendly. No animosity towards anyone. All envy will go away. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for kind attention for today's discussion. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter number 7. We have kind of discussed up to verse number 10. Next time when we meet, we'll read Prabhupada purports. I would request it's good if you can read these verses. I kind of quite a simplified analogy. The analogy is not so simple when you read it. There are more details to it. So it will help us to quickly cover over the discussion. And then we move forward. So with that, we conclude here for today. Hare Krishna. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Bhagavatam ki.